then you may go out and get some of those certifications. Or if you're trying to get your foot in the door with your first cloud role, you may start to look at Welcome to Debt Free in IT. I'm your host, Mike. This podcast is for anyone who's looking to get into the IT industry, whether it's for a career change or you're just interested. I think you come to the right place. Over the past couple of years, the cloud has become real popular. You have companies like Amazon with the AWS cloud certifications, Microsoft with Azure certifications, and CompTIA with the Cloud Plus certification. So each of these certifications provide value and have their own unique benefits. For example, if you're working for a company that's utilizing Amazon, you may go out and start learning about AWS Cloud, getting some of their certifications. If you're working for a company that's using Microsoft's Azure, then you may go out and get some of those certifications. Or if you're trying to get your foot in the door with your first cloud role, you may start to look at CompTIA. Most of their certifications are vendor neutral, so you may start to go and look at the CompTIA Cloud Plus. That way, you'll have some knowledge of the cloud, and you'll be well suited for any one of those entry-level cloud roles. But then, with all of these cloud certifications, there's one certification that I think is just as valuable, but you often don't hear a lot of talk about it. And that, sir, is the Cisco Designing and Implementing Cloud Connectivity Certification, or the CCNP ENCC 300-440 for short. This is a 90-minute exam that's associated with the CCNP Enterprise certification. So this is one of the concentration exams that you choose to take after you pass the Encore exam. So remember, with the CCNP Enterprise certification, after you get the CCNA, if you choose to go that route, you must pass 2 exams in order to become fully CCNP certified. You must pass that CCNP Encore. Then after that, you choose one of the concentration exams. So this cloud certification from Cisco is one of those concentration exams that you have to choose from in order to become CCNP certified. And with this certification, it validates that you can design and implement cloud connectivity, including architecture models, IPsec, and software-defined wide area network solutions. So my plan today is to look at the cost of this exam, the exam topics, any kind of industry relevance, and also a potential path that someone could take if they're trying to pursue this certification. So the first thing we want to look at is the cost of this exam. So this exam roughly costs about $300, and also you must pass the CCNP Encore before you can take this certification. So in total, that CCNP Encore is roughly around $400. Then you add this concentration exam for $300. So you're looking to be out of pocket roughly around $700 or $800. Or you can use any kind of learning credits you have with Cisco to go towards this certification. Now, depending on your job or your organization, if you're already in the field, then this may be something that your employer covers. So some employers, they will cover if you go out and get a certification, they'll reimburse you for the cost of that certification, especially if that certification deals with your job. So if it's something new you're trying to implement, your company's trying to implement, let's say your company's trying to implement a cloud model, then this certification will be right up the alley to maybe present it to your organization. Then they could go out, help you get certified, and cover the cost for you. But if you're paying out of pocket, like I said, you're roughly going to be looking at a total of around $700 or $800, being that you have to pass that Encore first, which is $400. And then when you get to this concentration exam, it's going to cost another $300. And also something that's fairly new since the new rendition of all the certifications, which happened a couple of years ago. But something that's fairly new is that there's no prerequisite for you to take the CCNP Encore. So which means that you necessarily don't have to have the CCNA to go ahead and take that CCNP. Now, if you don't have no networking knowledge at all, I don't advise that you try to go jump straight to this CCNP Encore, then to this concentration exam. But let's say if you already have some experience, you've already been working in networking, you just don't have the CCNA certification, then it's real possible that since you got the experience from working in the field, you probably have been utilizing some of the technology. So you may be able to go ahead and jump straight to the CCNP Encore and then to the concentration exam. So, but if you're a beginner, you're just learning about networking, I do advise you don't look at the prerequisite and say, oh, let me just jump straight to the highest certification, try to get the highest paying job out here. I advise that you do go and learn that CCNA to build that foundation, or even start with the CCST to get that foundation, then move to the CCNA, then to the CCNP. But if you already out there, you got years of experience, you just don't have that paperwork, you just don't have that certification, then it is possible for you to skip the CCNA, go to the CCNP Encore. After you pass that, then you can move on to this cloud certification as your concentration exam to get that CCNP Enterprise certification. And then moving on to the exam topics. So the first exam topic, it covers roughly around 15% of the exam, and it covers the architecture models. One of the topics that stood out to me was describe internet-based connectivity with cloud providers. This includes AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Then you have another one that says describe private connectivity to these cloud providers. So what that's telling me is that, okay, from this certification, you're pretty much learning how to implement these other vendors' cloud products. So if you're running a Cisco environment, which most companies probably are, if you're utilizing Cisco networking, you're already a Cisco house, a Cisco environment, then what this certification does is when your company try to bring on the cloud product, whether it's AWS, Azure, or Google, more than likely it's going to be one of those. I consider those the big three. So more than likely it's going to be one of those vendors. Then what it does, by you getting this certification, you're learning about implementing those cloud products within your environment that you already have on these Cisco services and Cisco products. So the second domain that's covered on this exam is design, and it's roughly around 15% of the exam. And also this includes, one of the exam topics on this is describe cloud native security policies for AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, such as east and west traffic within a cloud provider, backhaul internet traffic, and inbound connectivity to the internet. So like I said, it's digging real deep into the back end of implementing these cloud products. So that's one thing that stood out to me about this certification and made me wonder why I don't see a lot of people talking about it. So it is people talking about it, but like I said, you don't hear it as much when someone bring up the cloud. More than likely, they're talking about an AWS certification, an Azure, and a Google Cloud. But I always wondered myself that, okay, what's the cert to get if you're trying to implement this, being that most places are running Cisco networking equipment. So if you're trying to implement this on a Cisco environment, then what certification can I get to kind of help me with this implementation? Then once it's implemented, you still need a certification, or you still need the experience or the knowledge of the certification. Not saying that you have to go and get it just to know about it, but you do need the experience of it in order to support it, because we all know after something is implemented, the job is not over, because usually when things get implemented, that means that things will sometimes break. So if something breaks, you need to know how to support it and how to fix it. So after it's implemented, then you go into the support phase where you're just supporting it. You're keeping things up. So you need to know a little bit of that background information for this. And I think that's something that this cert covers. So the next domain that's covered with this certification is roughly around 25% of the exam, and it's IPsec cloud connectivity. One of the topics that stands out under this domain is to configure routing on a Cisco iOS XE to integrate with cloud networks using BGP and OSPF, including redistributing and static routing. So this goes into some of your routing protocols and implementing these routing protocols to help with these cloud networks. So one of the protocols, like I said, BGP and OSPF. So usually, like I said, BGP, that border gateway protocol, OSPF is that internal routing protocol. So it goes into a little bit of some knowledge of, if you got any kind of networking knowledge, then you know that lingo of, okay, we got to learn how to do some BGP to connect this network, then also some OSPF, which BGP is used a lot with the your internet service providers. You know, they utilize a lot of BGP routing. So it's also something to know about, just because even if you're not with that internet service provider, at your organization, you will have BGP running in order to connect up with whoever your service provider is. So it goes into a little bit of that. So like I said, it helps you to, if you're already in networking, I think that this is something great to add on to your repertoire and add on to your skill set. So the next domain that's covered is SD-WAN cloud connectivity. It's roughly around 25% of this exam. So one of the topics that stood out under this domain is to configure Cisco SD-WAN internet-based secure cloud connectivity for AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. And the last domain was operation. That's roughly around 20% of this exam for a total of 100%. So out of all the domains, they equal up to 100% of the exam. It breaks down each domain into what percentage each domain is a part of the whole complete exam. So something that stood out under the operation domain was to diagnose Cisco SD-WAN internet-based secure cloud connectivity for AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. So from looking at these domains, like I said, you can go to the website, type in CCNP Cloud exam topics, it'll come up. And also I'll try to link to it in the bottom of this video or in the description. But like I said, you take these domains and you start to create your study plan according to this domain. So you go get the exam topics, then you reach out to your available resources that you're going to use to study for it. But like I said, I think it's neat, and I'm sure a lot of other companies do it. You know, most certifications I've taken has been Cisco. So, but I'm sure a lot of other companies do it too. I know CompTIA does it, where you are given the exam topics. That way you know what to study. You're just not trying to study and cram everything in. So you got these exam topics, which narrows it down a little bit and give you more of a focused aspect when you're trying to pursue and study for one of these exams. Sorry to interrupt this video. According to my YouTube analytics, 84% of my viewers are not subscribed. If I provided any value to you in any one of my episodes and you're not subscribed, please consider doing so, because it does help out the channel. And also, if you're listening to this in your favorite podcasting app, please leave me a review and share this with a friend. Now back to the episode. The next thing we're looking at is industry relevance. So this certification is good for any professional that's interested in getting into the cloud, learning more about the cloud. So also with cloud technologies being in demand, like I said, this cert is valuable because it's not specific to any particular cloud vendor. So it teaches you on the big three, implementing the big three, which I say is AWS, Azure, and Google. So usually most organizations is going to fall within one of those three cloud vendors. But also, like I said, this cert is also specific to Cisco services and environments that's using Cisco to implement this cloud technology. So if you're already a Cisco house. By a Cisco house, I mean your network is a majority of Cisco equipment, then this would be a perfect cert, because like I said, whenever y'all utilize the cloud or implement it, or maybe you already have it implemented, but you go down this path and it helps you to better be able to support that environment. So me coming from a networking perspective, so once you get that networking aspect down, then you add on, implementing the cloud to support that network. Along with this, like I said, I think it makes for a great certification. So anyone interested in adding a little bit of cloud technology, a little bit of cloud experience on top of your networking experience, I think this will be a good path to go down. And also, if you looked at any networking jobs recently, you may have noticed where a lot of them are looking for someone with knowledge of the cloud also. So when you look up a network engineer job, a lot of times it may not ask for this cloud certification, but a lot of times if you look at the experience level or things that they're looking for in the right person, a lot of times you'll see they want you to have some knowledge of the cloud. So some AWS knowledge, some Azure knowledge. So that's why I think that even though they may not exactly be looking for someone with this certification, I think having this certification will provide some value to those companies as a network engineer, because they want you to have some knowledge of those cloud products. So I think that this certification is I'm not going to say it's new. I think it came about roughly around maybe a year or so ago. It got added as a concentration exam. So I don't think a lot of jobs have picked up on it and start asking for this certification yet. But they are asking that, you're applying for a senior network engineer role. They are asking that you know something about the cloud. So also, this could be your knowledge of the cloud could be that you done went down and you done got some AWS certifications, or you done got some Azure certifications. But like I said, this is also a good alternative that I think will help you progress in your career as you start pursuing more and more different cloud roles. So now let's look at what would be a good certification path. So as always, like I said, a good certification path, if you don't have no knowledge of networking and you're trying to get into the cloud, and also especially networking within the cloud, I would still say that CCNA is going to be the key point. If you already have experience, you may not need to get the CCNA, but once you get the CCNA, then you would need to go ahead and progress to that Encore. And I will tell you that Encore is a beast. Like, that thing is almost like when you're playing Mike Tyson Punch Out and you get to Mike Tyson and he keep beating you. And then after that, after Mike Tyson Punch Out went away, that came out with the one with Mr. Dream. And you know, for me, I could never get past Mike Tyson or Mr. Dream. So that's about like the CCNP Encore for me. So I've been studying for it. I've taken it once. Came up a little bit short. So trying to get back in the groove of studying for it. As you seen, if you looked at any of my previous episodes, I do drop study with me episodes every once in a while. So trying to just get back in the groove to go ahead and take this certification again before the end of the year. So like I said, if you don't have your CCNA, I would say get your CCNA first, then move on to this Encore. Or, like I said, since there's no prerequisite, if you already have that networking experience and you done been in the field for a while, you may be able to jump straight to the Encore. And then after you get the Encore, for your concentration exam, you can choose this cloud certification. And then, like I said, also, what would be the icing on the cake is if you get this cloud certification, which goes into implementing AWS, Azure, Google Cloud on a Cisco environment, then I think the icing on the cake would be whatever environment that y'all have at your organization or the organization you're going to. If they're utilizing AWS, then going out and start knocking out some of those AWS certifications, like I'm saying. So, like I said, certifications ain't the end all be all, but like I said, it is something that you can get that validates this technology. So that's the main thing I like to use it for. So it validates that this technology. Then once you get in that interview, once they see that you actually know your stuff, then like I said, I think that's where the biggest value come in at. But that would be one good certification path that one could follow, especially if they're in a Cisco environment or trying to get in a Cisco environment. I think this will be a great path to follow. So this cloud certification, like I said, is good for any Cisco environment that's utilizing this cloud environment. I think it covers that gray area of taking your environment and implementing it with a cloud provider. Like I said earlier, that's one of the things that stood out to me is, it covers that area of that implementation part where most of the time, you come in and you're doing the support part for it. So I think it's great that it's almost taking another perspective of learning the cloud, of you're learning to implement it. That way, as long as you got this certification, you'll be well suited for if a company is implementing AWS, if they're implementing Google Cloud, or if they're implementing Azure. So it's almost like long as they're a Cisco environment, then you're able to go into that organization and hit the ground running. So that's one of the things I like about this certification. So it is something, it popped up on my radar a while back. I just haven't really had the time to go and deep down and explore it. But it is something I like, especially if you're trying to get into the cloud. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found some value in this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, you can follow me at DebtFreeInIT. If you have any questions, you can email me at debtfreeinit@gmail.com, or you can visit the website debtfreeinitwithmike.com. Other than that, I'll see you next week. Peace.